Welcome to part 5 of Jamey Heath's October 8, 2025 deposition. Hudson. Mr. Heath, during Miss Sachs' deposition, she testified that Mr. Baldoni yelled at her 3 different times and that you were present for each of those. Do you recall that? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I do not recall that. Hudson. Okay, do you recall in Mr. Baldoni's testimony yesterday, he talked about an apology letter that he sent, an email that he sent regarding an incident with Miss Sachs on February 18, 2023. Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I'm sorry, the date? I'm not sure. So I might see something to refresh it, but I'm not sure what you're referring to. I mean, I think I do, but I'm not sure. Hudson, you know that the lengthy apology email that Mr. Baldoni, yes, wrote that he testified about yesterday. Do you recall that? I do. You recall it arising out of an incident with Alex Sachs? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I think all the testimony I've heard about it has much nuance that doesn't make what I've heard my memory at all about it. Not at all. Forgive me. Hudson, but you know which incident I'm referring to, correct? I do. And you said your memory about that is different? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, yes. Some material things. Hudson, some material things? Okay, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment. Sure. Miss Sachs also testified that there was a Zoom call in January 2023 where you, Miss Gianetti, and Mr. Kaloff, along with Mr. Baldoni, were discussing creative notes on the script, and Mr. Baldoni yelled at Miss Sachs. Shapiro, objection. There is no question. Hudson, do you recall that incident? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I believe that there is some confusion. Hudson, by whom? I don't know who, but I don't know there to be 2 incidences. You don't know there to be 2 incidences? I do not. Okay, so the only thing you recall is this one incident that resulted in the apology letter, which you recall differently than the testimony you've heard. Is that right? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, correct. Hudson, okay, so you don't recall the Zoom call that Miss Sachs testified about. Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I think the Zoom call was the apology letter that came after. Hudson, so there were not 2 incidents as far as you recall. Is that right? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, as far as I recall, correct. Hudson, okay. And then she also testified about it a 3rd time when there was a filming at the root location, that she was sitting at the monitor and that you and Miss Gianetti were behind her, and that Mr. Baldoni went up to her and asked her how she thought the scene was going and if he was getting it, and she thought he did and expressed that she didn't believe that they needed to reshoot it again, and that he yelled at her, slammed his hands on the director's chair next to her, and walked away. And that she turned around and told Ange and you that if something like that happened again, she would walk off the movie. Shapiro, objection. Hudson, did you hear that testimony from Miss Sachs? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I heard her talking about it, but I don't recall her words. Hudson, okay, do you recall her describing it effectively, to the effect that I just did? Shapiro, objection. Hudson, well, strike that. Do you recall an incident that is effectively similar to what Miss Sachs described? I recall the incident. Okay. Of the incident that she's describing, but the way she describes it, I don't recall it exactly that way. But more importantly, I don't recall her testimony to it. Okay, fair enough. But you recall that the incident that I'm referencing here at the root location. I do. But you recall something different. So what is your recollection? It's not that it's drastically different, just that this is so, let me be really honest with you. This whole process is really challenging because I'm the one that speaks with my hands and with excitement. And I'm trying to be very mindful and reverent of the gravity of everything we're talking about. There was a lot. And what date was this? Can you remind me of the date, please? Or I can see. Miss Sachs says it was the filming on the root location. Yeah, I just can't recall the date that was. I don't think that the date is that important. Shapiro, objection. Jamey, well, it's important for what? Hudson, I believe she testified that it was either June 17th or June 18th. Right, so this was, June 7th or June 8th. Okay, fair enough. We had new ADs. Justin was dealing with time constraint, a lot of pressure to get this scene within a certain time. Whenever you have a lot of people working on something, it can cause some stress and different ideas and different opinions. We had new ADs with disgruntled PAs that were loyal to our previous ADs that we had to fire. And now they're working under new ADs and there's feelings about that. And Justin is managing through recognizing there is PAs that are having feelings that the other one was fired. And now they have to learn a new footing with these new ones. And now from that, he's trying to get the scene. I'm constantly going in there with him and I'm saying to him, dude, we need to wrap this up. But he hadn't captured it yet. And I've gone in there 3 or 4 times because I can speak to him very clearly. We need to wrap this up in 10 minutes. But he understood. but he didn't capture yet, which is his choice as director. So when he came out to talk to me and Alex and Ange, he was very passionate about that. He didn't have it yet. And Alex said something. I don't recall what she said. And his response was like, he said something like, Alex, I'm the director. I need to get this. That was the volume and the tone that I remember. And I do remember him when he said that. The director's chair was like flappy material. And when he did it, he hit this, not hit it aggressively, but he hit it or it flapped and he was like, I'm the director. I got to get this. And then he was forced to walk back. Not forced, but he had to hurry up and get back to set. And then Alex did respond with, did you see that? Did you see what he just did? And Angie's response was like, he's not wrong, Alex. And Alex was like, yeah, but didn't you just see how he just yelled at me? And she's like, she's not wrong. He's the director and he's just trying to get this done. And she was like, if he ever does that to me again, I'm going to walk off the set. And her and Ange got into it because Ange was like, what is the problem? And Alex had her feelings about it. And that's essentially what I recall. So I don't want to discredit Alex's feelings or whatever she felt, but I think the way that I've heard it, recall it's testified, is very exaggerated to the actual incident and the circumstances. And you understand that Miss Sachs said that she felt physically intimidated? Shapiro, objection. By Mr. Baldoni's behavior? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, okay. Hudson, and she called his response rageful? Shapiro, objection. Hudson, but in your view, she was exaggerating? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, Miss Hudson, I feel like if you asked anybody that was on the set at that moment that no one would say he was rageful. Hudson, and Miss Sachs also testified that you did not say anything at that time of that incident. Is that your memory also? At that exact moment, she and Ange were discussing it, and Alex then left out the back door. And then shortly after I went, I would not say followed her, but went to go have a conversation with her and see how she was, because she seemed, certainly she was upset. Did you say anything at that time? I don't recall our conversation. I just remember I went out and just walked with her for a little bit and then tried to have her feel better. Did Miss Sachs talk to you after she had a brunch with Jenny Slate on May 29th, 2023 about complaints that Miss Slate had raised? She never talked to me about it that I recall. Miss Sachs testified that she told you about Miss Slate's complaints. Are you saying that's not accurate? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I don't recall that. I think she might be confusing that maybe she had a conversation with Justin, but I can't say for sure. But I don't have a recollection of her telling me directly anything. Hudson, she testified that she told you that Jenny Slate talked about 2 incidents in which Mr. Baldoni called her hot or sexy. No, that's not accurate. There was 1 incident that they were referring to, not 2. Did you have a Zoom call with Alex Sachs in which she talked to you about Miss Slate's concerns? I don't recall. You don't recall, so you might have? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I have no memory of it. Hudson, you have no memory? Okay. And Miss Slate, Miss Sachs, also testified about a number of other things that she told you about the brunch with Jenny Slate, and you're saying you don't recall her having any conversation with you about concerns raised by Miss Slate at a brunch on May 29th, 2023? Fair objection. Jamey, I have no recollection of a conversation with her about it. Hudson, okay, Miss Sachs also testified that she strongly encouraged you to investigate Miss Slate's complaints. Do you recall Miss Sachs saying anything like that to you? No. She testified that she encouraged you to do so on 3 separate occasions. Wow. Shapiro, objection. Hudson, you don't recall her saying that to you on 3 separate occasions? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, those conversations never happened. I can say that emphatically. Absolutely not. Hudson, and you didn't respond to her that you heard it and said they needed to talk about it? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I'm sorry. I didn't understand the question. Hudson, and you don't recall saying that you heard what Miss Sachs was saying and that you needed to talk about what you were going to do next, essentially? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, no. Hudson, okay, and Miss Sachs also testified that at some point shortly thereafter, you said that you weren't going to do an investigation and that you sort of tap danced around the idea that it would be better for all. It would be better for all of this not to be an official record. Shapiro, objection. Jamey, are you asking me if I remember when Alex said that? Hudson, I'm asking you if you said that to Alex consistent with her testimony. I will give you 2 statements. I never said that to her, and I remember her saying that. And when she said that, it was all I could stand to not say something out loud like what's happening. She also testified that you didn't want the behavior written down, documented anywhere in the event that someone wanted to talk about it again in the future. Shapiro, objection. Hudson, is that accurate? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I'm sorry, you're asking did I say that? Hudson, did you say that to Miss Sachs? Absolutely not. Okay, so your testimony is she's making that up. Shapiro, objection. Jamey, my testimony is that I never said that. Hudson, okay, did you become aware at any time that Miss Slate had concerns? At what time? Any time. Yeah, I became aware that there was some things that she had shared, yes. And who did she share them with? I don't recall when I learned and who, but I believe Ange was someone I believe she spoke to. I'm a little unclear about that. And I've learned after the fact that apparently she had this conversation with Alex. Let me rephrase that. I know that she had a conversation with Alex, but I had never had the conversation with Alex, so I didn't know firsthand from her. And you are referring to, you said in your prior testimony that Miss Sachs told you that there was one time when Mr. Baldoni, that Miss Slate reported to her that there was one time Mr. Baldoni said she was hot or sexy. Is that what you're referring to? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I had learned at some point that she had brought up this particular incident up. Yeah. Hudson, she, meaning Jenny Slate? Correct. To Miss Sachs? Correct. Okay, and you learned that from Miss Sachs? I did not learn it from Miss Sachs. I do not recall and believe that. I think I learned that from Ange. Okay, do you recall when you learned it? I believe that would have been May 28th or May 29th. And how did you learn that? In a conversation with Ange. And what did Miss Giannetti tell you? She had said, I don't recall the exact words at this point, but because honestly, there's so much that we've learned along the way, so much conflicting ideas. And who learned what and when at this point. It's all just a bunch of, some of it is mumbo jumbo. So you only testify about what you recall. I know, I'm just giving you context of why I'm doing my best to think about it. Okay. But I hear you. Ange had called Justin, and then I believe Justin called me. So the three of us were on a call. We were talking about coming back from COVID because we had been shut down, what we were going to do, what scenes we had knocked out, things of, just kind of what was the plan. And on that call, she had mentioned that she had a conversation with Blake and that she was unhappy about getting COVID. And she had some frustrations with the way that production had handled the COVID protocol or the lack of COVID protocol, something of that nature. And she had said during the call, she had mentioned to her something about Justin making reference to her wardrobe as sexy. And that also she had a conversation, or that she had heard from Blake, or she heard directly from Jenny, I don't recall exactly, that about Justin making reference to her wardrobe. So in your memory, both Miss Lively and Miss Slate specifically said that the reference was to their wardrobes. Shapiro, objection. Jamey, that's how I understood it to be. Hudson, and what was the reference? Did Miss Giannetti say anything elaborate on what the specific reference was? We have update calls all the time, what's going on, and report like what happened on set that day, what happened yesterday. I'm just talking about this one call. I understand that you're talking about. I understand. So this was one of them. Well, I'm asking you if Miss Giannetti elaborated on what she meant by the wardrobe comment. Did she tell you what the comment was? Shapiro, objection. Hudson, for either Miss Lively or Miss Slate. Yeah, that's something about Justin had used the word sexy in reference to their wardrobe. For both of them? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I don't remember the exact words, but something of that nature. Hudson, okay, is there anything else you recall about that call with Miss Giannetti? Yes. And then Ange had said, did you show Blake a video that had something to do with your wife and the birth of your child? And I said, yeah, I showed her a video. We tried to, and then she was like, yeah, she was mentioning that you showed it to her, and she thought maybe it was something else, or she didn't understand why you had showed it to her, or something like that. I don't remember the exact dialogue, but it was something of that nature. And she made me aware that she had had that conversation with Blake, and that was before you had the June 1st meeting? Correct. With Miss Lively directly? Correct? Correct. Is there anything else that Miss Giannetti told you in this meeting on May 28 or May 29? I can't recall anything else. Did she suggest any course of action as a result of the things she was telling you? I don't recall. Did it? So by this point, well, strike that. Did you have any conversations directly with Miss Slate? I did not. Did you have any conversations directly with Miss Lively about the wardrobe comment that you referred to? Did I have a conversation? Yes. With her directly? Yes. Not directly. Okay. Did you have it indirectly? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, on the June 1st conversation that we were in her trailer, she had mentioned it to Justin. Hudson, she mentioned Mr. Baldoni saying something about her looking sexy. She said something about like, hey, I know you guys talked to Ange, just wanted to say we're all cool, we're good. I know that we had the conversation about the wardrobe, something like this. I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit. And she was just like, wanted to clear the air, we're good. Let's get back from COVID and let's get back on a good foot. So your testimony is she told you that she knew you had talked to Ange. Correct. The comments that Miss Giannetti told you about the sexy comments to Miss Slate and Miss Lively, were you present for either one of those? Shapiro, objection. Hudson, when they were made. Shapiro, objection. Jamey, in regard to the Jenny Slate, no. In fact, I don't know. I don't know if I even knew about it until we had the conversation with Ange or something. I was not exactly present for the Blake conversation, but minutes afterwards, I was on set and I was aware. Hudson, minutes afterwards, who told you? Justin. What did he say? He had just been on set talking about wardrobe or something. I wasn't there for it. From what I understood, he then a few minutes later, because he was directing and there was a lot to do on set, he walked over to me and said, "Hey, I just had a conversation with Blake and Jenny, and we were talking about her wardrobe, and I was just apologizing to them because, I may have mentioned that her outfit was, I don't remember the expression exactly that he said at that time. Only later did I learn, but maybe he said that I referred to her wardrobe as sexy or something. And I apologized because I didn't want to make her feel like I was using elementary language or something like that. I was like, "Oh, did you apologize?" He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "What happened?" He was like, "No, it was all fine. I just, that just happened." I was like, "Okay, everything good?" He was like, "Yeah." And then he went back, and from what I understand, they had a brief conversation about it, and then we started shooting. So that's the extent that I knew at that time. Did you understand when you had talked to Miss Gianetti that neither Miss Lively nor that both Miss Lively and Miss Slate were uncomfortable with Mr. Baldoni's reference to them as sexy? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I don't recall that being part of the dialogue. Hudson, no. Why did you think Miss Gianetti was telling you about it? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, there are so many moving parts all the time. There's always things happening, always things to be aware of, and that's how I took it. Hudson, that's how you took it? Yeah. Just a piece of information for you to gather and not do anything with? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, there was nothing about it that appeared that there was something to do with. Hudson, do you understand that now that Miss Slate was uncomfortable? Shapiro, objection. Hudson, with that comment? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, yeah, I heard. I heard her deposition. Hudson, you heard her deposition, and you heard her describe the text exchange that she had with her team regarding press and promotion on the film in June of 2023. Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I don't know what you're referencing. I'm sorry. Hudson, okay, did you hear her testify about a text in which she told her team, "Hey guys, I don't want anything to do with Justin. I don't want to talk to him," like nothing, and the same goes for Jamey, who is truly unprofessional? Do you recall her testifying about that? I don't know if I remember her exact words, but I remember her saying something of that nature. Do you recall her saying also, as read, "But this has been a really gross and disturbing shoot, and I'm one of many who feel this way. And Blake and I have both complained directly to Andrew Sony, and they agree with us, by the way. Justin is truly a false ally, and I'm unwilling to do anything that promotes the image that he's crafting as a male feminist. Like, honestly, I have no words to describe what a fraud he is." Do you remember her talking about that in her deposition? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, her deposition was a couple of weeks ago. Hudson, yes. You understand that? This is what she said a couple of weeks ago, is what I'm saying. Yeah, you understand that these are the words she communicated to her team on June 4th, 2023. Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I'm learning as we go. Okay, so do you now understand that as of June 4th, 2023, Slate was uncomfortable? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I believe yes. I recognize that is what she's stating. Hudson, okay, and even though Miss Gianetti raised to you that both Miss Slate and Miss Lively had talked to her about the fact that Mr. Baldoni had called them sexy, you didn't think there was anything to do with that information. Shapiro, objection. Jamey, at that time, with the information given, there did not seem to be anything to do. No, not from anybody that had the conversation, including Ange. Hudson, okay, I'm going to hand you a document that we marked as Exhibit 12. Exhibit 12 marked for identification. Exhibit 12 is a text chain between you, Jamey Heath, and Justin Baldoni dated May 28, 2023. It's stamped Heath 34492. Do you recognize this as a text chain between you and Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath? Allow me a quick moment to read it. My question to you is only about what is on the second page. I understand. I want to read up to that point, please. How about we do this, if you don't mind? I'd like to direct your attention to what I'm asking you about, and if you feel like you need to read the entire thing to get context, then you can do so. I'm so sorry. I want to be so respectful. If you're going to put a document in front of me and you're going to ask me about it, I would really like to read it. I'm not asking about the whole document. I'm asking you about one or two things that you said. So I would like to ask you, and then if you feel like you need to read the entire thing for context, you're welcome to do that. But I don't want to do it in reverse order because I'm not asking about this whole document, okay? So if you could turn to the second page. I need to ask for guidance on this one, so forgive me. What do you mean you need to ask for guidance? I would like to ask my attorneys for guidance that if you hand me a document, do I not have a right to request to read it? Is that within my right? Because you were asking me, Shapiro, this is a 2-page document. I think you've spent more time arguing with him about it than it would have taken him to read it. Hudson, well, Shapiro, I'm just pointing it out. Hudson, we're talking an excessive amount of time to read documents respectfully. So, Shapiro, this is a 2-page document. Jamey, you've given me 4. I'm trying to do my best. Hudson, I understand, but I just want to ask you questions. So if you don't mind, if I could just bring you to the questions I want to ask you, and then if you need to look, that's fine. That was a suggestion you made. Let's try and do that. How about it? Accepted. Okay, thank you. If you would look at the second page, 35493, at the top of the page it says from Mr. Baldoni, as read, I told Steve Moore today. Do you see that? I see it. And then you respond, as read, I talked to Steve last night also. I didn't share about the comments the ladies had feelings about. Didn't want to share anything you hadn't yet. Do you see that? I do. Then Mr. Baldoni responds, as read, I shared with him today. Do you see that? I do. My question for you is, the comments the ladies had feelings about, what does that refer to? Okay, so respectfully, you asked me about this, and there's context beforehand, so I would like to read it. All right, go ahead. Okay, thank you. Which ladies' comments were you referencing to there? I don't really recall exactly what was happening at this moment, but I don't. Do you know who the ladies were that you were referring to there? I don't recall sending this. Well, I'm not asking you if you recall sending it. I'm just asking if you recall which comments you were talking about there or which ladies you were talking about. I don't recall sending it, so I don't recall what I was thinking. So looking at it now, I would only be guessing. And I might be able to make a good guess, but I don't want to guess it incorrectly. Well, you read the whole thing for context, right? I did. Maybe Mr. Baldoni's response will help provide you some additional context. He said, as read, I shared with him today. He said he should come to sit and remind Blake whose money this is. And I said, that's not the best idea. Right. Does this refresh your recollection that one of the ladies was Miss Lively? It may have been. It may have been. And any other lady might have been Miss Slate, right? It may have been, but I just don't know for sure. It may have been that the comments that you are referring to were the ones that Miss Slate and Miss Lively had raised to Miss Giannetti, correct? I don't recall sending it. I don't recall this conversation. So I just don't want to be wrong about something so. Did you ever talk to Mr. Baldoni what it is that he shared with Steve? I did not. Did you understand Steve to be Steve Sarwitz? I did. Do you know what you talked to Steve Sarwitz about? Did I know what? What you talked to Steve Sarwitz about the night before. I don't recall what we talked about, but I know this was during COVID and a shutdown, so maybe it was an update. Are there any other ladies who had feelings about comments other than Miss Lively and Miss Slate? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, this is why I can guess. This is a tricky one for me. You're asking me to deduce, and I can't. Hudson, I'm not asking you to deduce. I'm asking you, are there other ladies who had concerns about comments on set? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, no, but I don't see that I'm saying on set here. Hudson, okay, are there other ladies that you knew about on May 28th, 2023 who had feelings about comments? I could guess that possibly it is about Blake and Jenny. Since that's what you're asking, I could guess, but I don't know for sure. It's an educated guess, right? That's probably what we're talking about here. Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I'm doing my best to not just hit a wall here, and I can't say. Hudson, okay. This is 2 years ago, and I don't know. Hudson, okay. I'm going to hand you a document that we're marking as Exhibit 13. Jamey, sure. Do you want this one? Stenographic reporter, thank you. Exhibit 13, marked for identification. Hudson, Exhibit 13 email from Lindsay Strasberg to Eileen Mezzanine and Joseph Lanius, dated November 9th, 2023, and has an attachment entitled Protections for Return to Production. It's stamped Wayfarer 140991 through 140993. I see it. Have you seen this email before, Mr. Heath? Yes, just briefing it, but yes. You understand this to be the cover email that sends to your Wayfair lawyers Miss Lively's Protections for Return to Production, right? Yes, I see that. With the protections attached, right? I see that. Yes, and you understand that's what this is. I do. Okay, who's Eileen Mezzanine? Imene, by the way, is how to pronounce it, and she's our legal counsel at Wayfair. Is she an in-house counsel? She is. And what is her title? VP of Legal Affairs. And Mr. Lanius is outside counsel? Correct. Okay, all right. And when did you first see this email and the protections for return to production? November 9th, I believe, the day it was sent. Okay, and when you received it, did you read it? I did. What did you understand, if anything, the protections that are listed here to refer to? To refer to, this seems like a list of conditions that she wants to return to set. Okay, and this is sent in November. What was the status of the production on November 9th? We were working through the WGA strike, which we finally got through. Then we were dealing with the SAG strike. We were trying to get ahead of the SAG strike because we didn't know when it would leave. So we took the risk of setting production back up, which incurred a lot of cost, hoping that the SAG strike would end so that we could get the movie done. And we were successful in that, gambling that it would end. I was in contact with her agent and lawyers, trying to get Blake to commit to coming this day. I thought everything was fine. Instead of her showing up, we got this letter and I was very confused. You were confused? I was. Okay, so it says, as read, in order for Blake Lively, if you look at page 2 of the beginning of the protections. Yeah. As read, in order for Blake Lively to be able to return to production on the film, each of the following protections must be agreed to in writing and met without fail going forward. Do you see that? I do. So I'm going to take you to number 6. Okay. It says, as read, no one will attempt to enter, interrupt, pressure, or request entrance to BL's trailer while she is in a state of undress for any reason. Do you see that? I do. Did you have any idea why Miss Lively wanted that protection? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, it seems like a protection that anybody would want, that no one would enter, pressure, or request to enter anybody's trailer while they are in a state of undress. Hudson, mm-hmm. And when you saw this protection, did you connect it in any way to the incident that Miss Lively raised to you on June 1st of you going into her trailer? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, no, because I did not see this as anything other than a requirement to come back to set. Hudson, you didn't see it as an indication that things were not okay from Miss Lively's perspective on set? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I saw this as a list of things that she needed to come back to set. Hudson, you didn't see this list as an indication that she was unhappy about things that were going on set? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, if I would have thought that, then he would have said something different. I would assume if you want that to be known, then he would say something differently. So I didn't. I did not read that. Hudson, what would you have needed to see in this list of 17 protections for you to understand that Miss Lively was not okay with things that had happened on set? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I can only tell you that if I got this in a contract tomorrow with an actor and number 6 was there, we would just say, okay, it would be that simple. Hudson, so you didn't think anything was being insinuated by this document? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, at this time, when I got this, I was looking at it from how we get the movie back going. We had to share this with legal counsel because this was a legal document, and we all determined that these were all things that were reasonable. Hudson, okay, did you read the cover email? I did. So if you look at the cover email, it says, as read, it is no surprise to the film's producers that the experience of shooting the film has been deeply concerning on many levels. The complaints of our client and others have been repeatedly conveyed and well documented throughout pre-production and photography. Did you read that when you read the protections? I did. And that didn't give you any indication that the protections related to the description of the set that is contained in the cover email? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, our set had experienced 2 strikes. We had replaced our ADs. We had COVID. There was a lot going on. So I would say the film did have some concerns for a host of people. And as well, this last sentence, as read, the complaints of our clients and others conveyed well documented throughout pre-production and photography. I knew of no complaints, so this particular line did not lead me to believe, therefore, it means this document is something specific that it insinuates. Hudson, so when Ange Giannetti told you that both Jenny Slate and Miss Lively had spoken to her, you didn't view those conversations as complaints? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, no, nor did she, there was nothing to make us think that. Hudson, okay, and the meeting on June 1st, where Miss Lively told you directly, you didn't see that as a complaint? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, Blake would have many meetings. So she got COVID and she wanted to address and talk about some things. This was no different than many. Hudson, you understand that Mr. Baldoni had written an apology note to both Miss Slate and Miss Lively. I'm aware. You're aware of that? Yeah. Did you understand that those apologies arose from concerns that they raised? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I understood that Justin wanted to meet anybody where they were and recognize, that if somebody talked to someone about something, he's an apologizer. He wants to recognize anything, whether he's at fault, at no fault, if he walks by you too quickly, whatever it may be. So yeah, he wanted to, and there were some feelings about it. We got shut down. I can't exactly speak to what he was going, but it wasn't uncustomary for Justin to send that. Hudson, okay, and the letter goes on to say, as read, while we reserve all legal rights at this stage, our client is willing to forego a more formal HR process in favor of everyone returning to work and finishing the film as long as the set is safe moving forward. In order for our client to feel safe returning to the production, we are attaching a list of protections that will need to be guaranteed and observed by the film's producers. Did you have any understanding of why an HR process was invoked here? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I missed what you just read there. Can you take me to where you were just reading? Hudson, I'm reading from Ms. Strasberg's email, the second paragraph, okay? And asking you, did you understand why an HR process was invoked there? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, I read this as willing to forego a more formal HR process, meaning that there is no HR to discuss. And I may have thought, what is this referring to? But my main concern was, how do we get this movie back going? She wants these things signed. They all seem like nothing that we have had an issue with. So how do we move forward? Hudson, in your view, what constitutes a complaint? Does somebody have to say, I am now making a complaint, in your view, for it to be clear that it's a complaint? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, no, not necessarily. I'm not an HR expert. So, Hudson, but you get trained every 2 years, right? I do, yes. And you read the handbook, right? I have. So in any of those trainings or in the handbook, is there anything that you understood about what information had to be conveyed to you for you to understand it as a complaint? Shapiro, objection. Jamey, we are trained to have, from my understanding, discernment to some extent. And if there's anything that leads one to believe that there's something that needs to be addressed, then you take it to HR. At this point, there was nothing that led us to believe that. Hudson, so the next document is marked attorney's eyes only, but Mr. Heath is a recipient and Mr. Baldoni is a recipient. Jamey, okay. Hudson, so I'm going to ask if you will waive the attorney's eyes only. Shapiro, can I see the document? Yeah, it's something that's been testified to by Jamey, so I suppose either way I get to see it? Hudson, you get to see it. Jamey, yeah. Shapiro, can I just have a minute to consult with counsel? Hudson, off the record. Let's go off the record. The videographer, we're going off the record. The time is 4:16 p.m. Recess. Videographer, we're back on the record. The time is 4:35 p.m. See you in part 6.